there, and welcome back to Stonehouse Homestead, where we're taking small steps towards self-sufficiency. We're using what we have to do what we can right here where we are, and where we've had approximately 3 feet of snow over the past 2.5 to 3 weeks. So we're pretty sick of it, but even with that, this is still one of my favorite times of the year. And the reason why is because I get to start my seeds for the spring garden. So that means that planting time is only about 6 to 8 weeks away, which makes me very excited. So today I'm just going to go over and show you what I do to start some of my seeds inside ahead of time so that I have a really good head start on my garden for the springtime for planting. First off, what you're going to need if you want to start your own seeds is you're going to need to determine what it is that you want to start. For me, for instance, I always start my tomatoes early, my peppers, and this year I started some eggplant as well. And that's because those particular items in this area where we are, those particular plants, if you direct sow them, plant them straight into your garden, the time it takes for them to germinate, to grow, to produce fruit is way too long. By the time they're producing fruit, it's already starting to become freezing time around here, and so you're really not going to get a good harvest. So that's why I start those ahead of time. I give them about a 6 to 8 week head start inside, so by the time I get ready to put them in the garden, they're nice, strong, healthy plants. The other things I start ahead of time are things like cabbage, broccoli, cauliflower, Brussels sprouts. Those are some of the main things I put in my spring garden. And I start those ahead of time because they also require a long time to grow and to produce till harvest time. But if I can get those started and I can harvest those, then I have room in the garden to plant other things because I can pull all those old plants out and plant something else there. The broccoli I do keep growing because normally when you harvest the main head of broccoli, you still get side shoots, and we eat side shoots. I think we ate broccoli all the way up until, I don't know, October, November last year. So I do keep that in, but the cabbage and the cauliflower and the Brussels sprouts, I'll pull all those out and I can put summer things and fall things in its place. So that's why I start those ahead of time. So for I got a helper over here. It's a little bit distracting with his bone. It's not time to play right now. I gotta show people how to start seeds, and then we'll play later. Sorry about that. Anyway, for my tomatoes and my peppers and the eggplant, the way that I start those is I germinate those first. I sprout them, so to speak. So the only thing that you need to do, it's really easy to do. This is how I do it. You can take either a paper towel, or you can even you can even use a coffee filter. It works really well. You just get it moist, and pull it out. And then these are my tomato seeds that I've saved over the past couple of years. I'm just going to take sprinkling out, and I'm going to sprinkle them on. Break some of them up, because some of them did stick together. So I'm just going to sprinkle them up and put them on my wet paper towel here. And I'm going to fold my towel in half and press it down. And then I have another baggie. I use these year after year. These are for my Roma tomatoes, which is what these seeds are. And I take my paper towel, put it in the plastic bag, and then I'm going to lay this on top of, after it's sealed, labeled and sealed, I put this on top of some kind of an electronic equipment that we have here in the house that emits some heat. We usually put this on our DVD player. We also have a gaming system that we use. So I just lay my bags on there. You're going to lay them on there for 3 to 4 days. Don't go too long, because what happens is they will sprout and the roots will go down through into the paper towel, and then you've lost everything. But in about 3 to 4 days, we'll check these. The ones that have sprouted are the ones that we're going to plant into our little cells. I'll show you those in a minute. And the ones that didn't germinate, we know that those are no good and we can get rid of those. So this is a really good way to determine whether or not the seeds that you're planting are actually viable seeds. So yesterday I did tomatoes, I did peppers and eggplant like I mentioned. Those are already on the warming trays. Today we're going to do broccoli, cauliflower, Brussels sprouts, and cabbage. And you can see I get my seeds from lots of different places. These were from Home Depot. I got these from RH Someways. These are from Gurney's. These broccoli seeds, believe it or not, I got at the dollar store last year. Last year. They were 2 cents a pack. They were on clearance, 90% off end of season. And so I was like, yeah, even if they don't germinate, I mean, I can't go wrong with 2 cents for the broccoli. And this is what we planted, and it did really great last year. So we'll try it again this year. And yes, as you can see, I've opened these, and I do save my seeds that I don't use from year to year. They're usually fine. You don't want to keep them for years and years, but for a few years, they'll be fine. Okay, so what you need in order to get your seeds ready, first off, most important, you're going to need a seed starting mix. Seed starting mix is a special type of mix. You don't get dirt from your garden and don't get dirt from your garden or from outside and put it in and think it's going to work. It needs to be a really loamy, fine, loose soil for your seeds to be able to germinate. So I just happened to order this from RH Shumway, and they sent it to me. You can get it at any of your garden stores. You can also make your own. There are several recipes online for making your own seed starting mix, which supposedly works fine too. I've never tried it. Do want to try that sometime, but I haven't done that yet. So you're going to need that. Plus you're going to need a container to start your seeds in. All kinds of different things you can use. Some people use eggshells. Some people use empty yogurt cups. Some people make their own little pots. There's peat pots that you can buy that look like little cardboard pots. All kinds of things. What I use, and I have found to work, is I just order these seed starting trays. Surprise! I didn't know they sent me this too. RH Shumway. I was able to get 2 trays, including the inner cells, the bottom tray, and the dome for $10. So that's not bad. Plus, I can use these for probably a year or two. I've also used grow plugs. You can get grow plugs that go down into a foam tray. Those work really well too. Just do a little research, find out, experimentation, find out what works best for you. I've had success with this, so this is what I'm going to stick with. And again, like I said, I can use it again next year and hopefully the year after as well. So I'm just going to put these here. And the first part, obviously, is you want to fill your cells with the seed starting mix. I'm just going to lightly dump it in here. Use my finger to spread it out. You do not want to pack it in here. You want to make it nice and light and loose. And you can see how nice and loose that is. That's not clumpy at all, and that's exactly what you want. So I'm going to go ahead and fill these trays up, and then we'll be right back with the next step. So here we have all of our cells filled, ready for me to put the seeds in. When I bought these from RH Shumway, they sent a little poker for seed starting, which is really good. You can't really see it very well on camera, but it's scored out in depths by inches. And these broccoli seeds, they say to do about 1/8 of an inch, which is right up to right about there. So I'm just going to take the tip and I'm going to poke it in, poke it in. If you don't have one of these, I'll show you what I normally do. You can probably guess, but let me open this. So, I've got little tiny broccoli seeds here. These are the store-bought seeds. See how tiny they are? You're going to put 2 in each cell. Actually, I should have put 2 holes in here then. 1, 2. And the reason why is because you're going to see which one germinates the strongest, which plant comes up looking the healthiest. And that's the one you're going to keep, and you're going to pull out the other one. It just gives you a better possibility here of having strong, healthy plants. So put 2 in, make sure you cover it up. Now, what I've done always, I just put 1, 2, I see where they are, and I just poke it down with my finger, and then cover it up. Not worried, it doesn't bother me to get my fingers dirty. So, whichever you like. If you have one of those tools, fine. If not, fine. It's no big deal. If you get more than just 2 in a cell, that's okay too. Sometimes I've had 4 come up in the same cell, and I've just pulled out the 3 that were the weakest and continued with planting the strongest, or letting the strongest one grow. Alright, so I'm going to go ahead and finish putting all my seeds in, and then we'll be back again, show you what the next step in this whole process is. We're almost there. Okay, so I have my seeds in, and they're labeled. Trust me, you want to label what you plant. Ask me how I know. You're going to want that information later. Especially with these plants, because when they start growing, they're going to look an awful lot like each other because they're from the same family. So the other thing I did too that I didn't mention is that these trays here are broccoli seeds that were saved from last year. So this is an experiment to see how this works for us. So I've got that labeled special. So I have everything ready. What we're going to do, I don't know if you can see that with a pencil. So it's time to water them. We're going to want to give them a nice soak, not flood them, although it'll look like it initially. That's not what we're doing. We're giving them a nice soak because this is going to sink right into all that loose starting medium here. And I use warm water, not hot, not cold. I use warm because I want to give the seeds a little bit of extra warmth to start, because after we finish this, what we need to do is we need to put the dome on, which we'll do here in a few minutes, and make sure that we put this in a warm place while it's doing its thing. This soil is going to hold water really well, and there's holes in the bottoms of these cells here for good drainage, because you definitely want good drainage. You don't want them swimming. They'll rot if they're swimming. Alright, so let me get some more water and finish this up, and then we'll be right back with the rest.
Hi.
My turn. Okay, so here we are back. I've watered everything thoroughly, so it's nice and damp, but not swimming in water. We don't want that. And so the next thing to do is just to cover it with the dome. If you're not using a seed starting tray, if you're using yogurt cups or eggshells or something like that, what works well with that is plastic wrap, to put plastic wrap around it. Also, the plastic containers that you get from salad bars that you get your salads in, I know people who've started seeds in those, and that whole thing acts as like a little greenhouse. Because what we're looking for here is a little greenhouse type effect. And so I'm going to take this into the other room and I'm going to put it on a heat mat. Now, I'd love to have grow lights, but we don't have room for grow lights here. That would be perfect. But what we do have here is a house that was built in 1875 that has 2.5 feet deep windowsills. Perfect for my seed trays. So these are going to go downstairs first off to just get them started because they don't need direct sunlight right now. And then as time goes on and we keep following up on how the seeds are doing, we'll show you how we move them around to get the best sunlight. So at this point, I'm just going to move them into the other room, put them on the seed mat, the heat mat to keep the seeds warm. This will act as a little greenhouse, and in a few days, we'll come back and check to see how things are doing. Now, a couple things to keep in mind that I didn't mention. One is that I always plant extra. I always start extra. For instance, I know out in my grow beds, my raised beds outside, I have room for 9 or 10 broccoli plants, cauliflower plants, cabbages, Brussels sprouts. I do smaller amount. I'm the only one that eats them, but I do like them and they are expensive, so I'm going to grow them. But I've started 12 cells of 2 seeds in each cell. That way, if something happens during the growing process and they don't all do well, I've hedged my bets a little bit, so I'll still have enough plants to put out. If they do great, all of them, then I'll give them away. I love giving away plants that I've started. Ladies in my office also garden, so we swap things back and forth. So it's not going to be lost if it does work well and I end up not needing it. The other thing too, just to let you know that I didn't go over, is that whatever you decide to plant, the seeds come in a little envelope that has all the instructions on it that you're going to need. It has when to start. This says 6 to 8 weeks. This is the cauliflower, 6 to 8 weeks prior to the last frost. Well, you need to know your last frost date, and my last frost date here is around the middle of May, is when we were guaranteed not to have any more frost. Usually it's a little before then, but that's when they say guaranteed no more frost after this time, like they can really guarantee that. It also tells you to use a seed starting medium without fertilizer, which I showed you. And then how to transplant it, how to harden it off. We'll go over all of this as the time goes on when we get ready to put things out in the garden. So the directions that you have on your seed pack are going to be invaluable to you as you start your seeds. They'll have all that information. There are some seeds too that you could start inside that I don't. I don't start squash seeds inside. I don't start cucumber seeds inside or any of my beans because their growing season, their plant date to harvest date is not that long. And it's cheaper to direct plant them in the garden than take up more cells, have to buy more trays, and use more soil or seed starting mix. But if you want to do that, you're perfectly welcome to. There's no reason why you can't. I just don't. So those are the things to remember at this point. We will come back with another video to check up to see how our little plants are doing, see if we have baby plants. And hopefully things will go well for us this planting season. We're looking forward to a good gardening season. So if you found this video helpful, we ask that you just click the like on our YouTube page and tell your friends about our little Stonehouse homestead here in suburbia. See you next time.